Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum to all. Hello dear viewers, what is going on? I'm your host Fahad AI Wala and I'm a student and interview captain at Rehan School Online Academy. I'm 15 years old and I'm based in Pakistan, Karachi. For those who are tuning it for the first time, I run Fahad's Journey Talk Show, and since 1 year I'm doing all this stuff, and my podcast is about life journeys, and I daily introduce some amazing guests to you to help you learn something new about these amazing pupils. And I mostly invite those pupils who are doing something to make an impact in the world, and they're actually literally making an impact in the world, and they provide us a better context that how we can take a stand in the world, how we can take a step, and how we can do all this stuff. So we daily introduce some inspirational guests, and as well as today i'm having this honor to have Noemi Barris on my podcast, and she is a little unique from other guests because her work is the work which I am hearing for the first time. And we will be exploring her amazing professional and personal life journeys, and we'll try to get some motivation from her. So, she's podcast guesting strategist, online marketing expert, multilingual communication, and artistic expression, and much more. So, let's try to hear from Noemi Barres about more her life. So, hi Noemi, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Hi, Fahad. It's lovely to see you. Lovely to meet you. I'm very well. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me your most valuable time for the podcast. So, how have you been?
I'm very well. I had a great weekend. Yeah. What about you?
I'm also doing great, and I'm feeling honored to have you on my show, and it'll be absolutely amazing. So, first of all, what is your story? How did you started your company and all that?
Right, right. So I was born and raised in Hungary in Central Europe, and I have a master's degree in Scandinavian studies. I'm a linguist. I speak Danish and Swedish. I studied their history, their language, their culture, and it was fun. But unfortunately, I really couldn't find any job with that kind of qualification. So I ended up my first, big milestone in my life was Ireland. I moved there from Hungary, and that was many, many years ago. Back was in 2004, and I started to work there. And in 2007, I became an entrepreneur, an online entrepreneur, and started to, been working remotely since 2007. Together with my husband, we had an online travel based business. Basically, we were the first car rental brokers for Hungarian customers, and that was a pure virtual online job. And that's what we've been doing until 2020. And I was doing content creation, social media marketing, blogging, travel writing, you name it. So it was fun. But unfortunately, the pandemic happened in 2020 and we had to pivot. And because the travel industry just collapsed from one day to another, so we had to start a new business completely from scratch, and that was Podcast Connections. Thankfully, we started a business in March, April in 2020, and yeah, this is going to be our fifth year very soon. And we help entrepreneurs and business owners to get on quality podcast shows. We are like matchmakers in the podcasting world. We help them to share their knowledge, share their stories, and that's what we do. And I'm also an artist. I make mixed media collages. That's my basically my passion project, and this is when I really relax. Yeah, so this is a little, nutshell about my life. Obviously, we can go deeper.
Hmm, amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, and congratulations for your fifth year for podcast connections, and you're absolutely doing amazing. As a podcaster, I know how beneficial it is to have someone who can connect with such amazing guests, for those we are searching for, and sometimes we couldn't find such guests who we actually want them to be as a guest on our podcast. And it is sometimes it became very difficult for us to find such guests, but for the persons like you, make this work even more easier for us. So Noemi, have you ever did the same job without, like, non profitably, you know without money?
I became an entrepreneur like in 2007. So most of my life, I was working for myself. So I didn't do much non-profit jobs, although I love volunteering. Okay, it's not a non-profit job, but it's kind of volunteering what I did. The city where I live in Cyprus was the capital culture of 2017, and I did a lot of volunteer work for museums, for concerts, for so I love doing volunteering for other people and for a certain and a good cause. But most of my life I was an entrepreneur, so I worked for myself. Yeah.
Like, have you ever been kind, like that much kind that you forced yourself to do without money, to connect people as a guest without money to the host, like that kind of thing, to put it on that way?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, I do that. When sometimes when I connect with people and I network a lot with a lot of people from around the globe, mainly in the US, Canada, and many times people are not my clients, but because I know they are a good fit to each other and they could explore that kind of relationship between them. So I just connect them because I truly believe that if you give to the world, if you provide free service to some people, if you just help them, then everything comes back to you tenfold. So I think that's really important. And not everything is about money. It's about being part of something bigger. I'm also part of I don't know, have you ever heard about Bob Berg and his book The Go Giver, which he wrote together with John David Mann. And I truly believe in the go giver mentality, and Bob is my mentor and my friend, and he taught us, I'm part of this great community, and he taught us to help people no matter what, and just because to be for them, to help them, to serve them, because it's really important in life.
Exactly. So you haven't started your own podcast, right? But you're doing these all kind of things since many years. Sorry, 5 years.
Yes.
So why you haven't think about it? Why you haven't started your own podcast after being there, almost there, with the host, with the podcast?
Right, right. Actually, I co-host a podcast, and I started that back in December, so that it's quite recent. And it's called The Sacred Divine, and I have a co-host partner. It's a bit different than what I do. It's not about marketing. It's not about podcast guesting. It's more about mindfulness, empowerment, and how to live your life mindfully. So it's yeah. So I do co-host a podcast.
Amazing, amazing, great. That was I mean to say from you. Oh, sorry, mean to hear from you. So it's really lovely to have podcast, for your own, and to share something with others, and to listen something from others as well. Give and take. This is very great. And after being here on my own podcast, I got to know about all these things. Anyways, what is the reality of podcasting? We probably many majority of the people are starting their own podcast, but not really, the way they have to do, all the settings, all this, you know guests, inviting guests, and all those kind of things. What is the reality of podcast? How we have to take a start when starting your own podcast?
That's a great question, Fahad, and I love it. It's really important to figure out what's your goal with the podcast. So what do you want? What do you want to be your legacy with that podcast? And what's the purpose? So you have to find that, and you also have to figure out first and foremost what's your niche. So what niche you want to be in. You want to be in the marketing space. You want to be in the sales space, sales kind of podcast, or you want to have a podcast about mindfulness, so you have to find a niche and you have to find your goal. I think that's the two very, very important points, first of all, before anything else.
Amazing, amazing. First, to find your niche, and to um, and yes, we have to do research on that. As the passage of time, we have to do more improvement on it, and to get feedbacks, from the guests, that how the podcast was gone with you, how the podcast goes with you, and all these things. So it also help you to improve, to do improvement on your podcast. um the other thing, like, how you started your podcast connections company, what was the difficulties, what was the challenging time you were facing when you were supposed to start your company?
Yeah, it was a really challenging time, to be honest with you, because it was, just the pandemic just started. And unfortunately, in the late mid 2019, in May 2019, I lost my father to cancer, and I lost my grandmother to an accident. And that was my 2019. And then the pandemic happened. And then I lost my business. So it's basically, there's a lot of trauma and tragedy going on in my life, and amidst all that chaos I had to start a new business from scratch because I had no other option. Obviously, you have to pay your bills, you have to continue life, and it's not easy to start a new business because first you have to find new customers in a completely new business environment. So it was a learning curve, and to be honest, I didn't even listen to podcasts before 2020. I had no clue what podcast guesting about, but luckily we had a great mentor, a great Irish guy, and he helped us basically to set up our own podcast booking agency thanks to his program. And yeah, it was so many things to learn. And first of all, you have to find your customers, and that's not easy when you start a new business,
Exactly.
e-commerce space.
Learning, from that experience, we are
Yes.
learning from that difficult time which we faced and which we overcame. So that's all the thing, which we have to take from our failures, which we have to take from the hard, difficult moments or the mistakes which we have made in our past. So that's all, like, all these things make us to um to be even more better in the present, in the future. Well, thank you so much, Jamie Barris, for giving me your most precious and valuable time for this podcast. And, to be honest, it was very helpful, very beneficial for the pupils who are actually looking forward to start their own podcast, and the pupils who have their own podcast, whether they are co-hosts, whether they are participating as a guest on other podcasts. So these that's all which we've discussed in this video to help other people, related to podcasting and all that stuff. Thank you so much, viewers and listeners, for watching and listening to us. It was all about for today's podcast, for today's Fast Journey Talks episode. I hope you like and enjoyed our conversation with Noemi Barris. Um, Inshallah, meet you soon with another amazing podcast with another amazing guest to take a look at any other topic, to take a look at any other main thing, which we are overestimating in our life. So till then, stay peace and take care of yourself. See you later. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.